All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. A little bit of a change up here. Normally, today's video would be a preview to this weekend's game. Given that this is the main game, we're going to wait to preview this weekend's game until our next video or later this week. That'll also include some injury updates because it doesn't sound great for Big Sexy. Jacob Sexton sounds like there's going to be a lot of time missed, potentially the entire season, but that's just speculation as of now. So we're going to wait to do all of that stuff till later this week. Today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we hope to see post this season from the Oklahoma offense, our coordinator wish list, because I think it's fair to say that neither of us, or I guess playing spoiler, neither of us agree that John Finley should keep this position as the offensive coordinator as of today. Before we get into everything, though, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know when we post our next video, and follow us at all the links down in the description, all social media, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. All right. So to start off, I think we're just gonna lay this out there. Brandon and I, we've been brainstorming. We talk off podcast all the time about who we think could get this job. We're gonna do our top three of who we hope are highly considered candidates. This is not like these guys are already getting interviews or any sort. That's not going to happen until the end of the season. But I think Brandon, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, the one thing we have agreed on so far is that whoever gets this job will likely get an opportunity to fill out this entire staff. And the guys on the current staff are going to need to be keeping their heads on a swivel or doing a really good job at basically, in a way, trying out to keep their position going into the 2025 season.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think, first of all, I think if John Finley is able to finish 8-4 if the Sooners finish 8-4, because John's not going to be doing it, but if Oklahoma finishes 8-4, and the offense looks good for the next 4 games, I do believe he will be the guy. Now I don't see that likely at all. Us finishing 8-4 and the offense looking great, but I mean that there's the off chance, right, of that happening. If it does, I think he will be the guy to keep it. And then I feel like he would keep everybody on staff just because he knows them all already. And I kind of think all of us as Sooner fans want to avoid that. I don't know. It's a tough position. If they finish 8-4, I think he's going to stay, but we'll see. I don't think that happens.
Yeah, on the off chance that happens, I'm sure he'll be at least highly considered. I think at some point it just has to be a changing of the guard. But let's get into our wish list here. Brandon, I'm going to let you go first here. Who is your number one guy that you hope is the hire for the offensive coordinator position at Oklahoma next year?
My number one choice is Brennan Marion over there at UNLV. I think his offense is just a lot of fun. I don't know if you watch any UNLV games, but he's got the go-go offense. He's got a go-go chain. I think he's a fun guy. He just looks like a guy that I think players like. He seems like a player's coach. They're averaging like 243.5 yards on the ground over there at UNLV, which is, I believe, 6th in the country. Overall offense, I think they're 46. But they're averaging well over 400 yards a game. They've got 35 offensive touchdowns, over 6.5 yards per play. And I think what's impressive about Brennan Marion, for me at least, is so him and my 1 and 2 candidates both have this in common. They went to TU for their collegiate careers, or at least most of them, most of their years in college, at least, because the other guy spent a year at Texas. But so they have a little bit of Oklahoma ties there. I think they're younger dudes, both of them are, so I think that's going to help. I mean, Brennan Marion's 37 years old, so he's not. I mean, he's the oldest of the candidates that I like, but that's still not very old. He's still very relatable to recruits and things of that nature. His offense is a lot of fun. But I think when you look at UNLV this season, I think they're a 5 or 6 win club. They're definitely a good program out there. But Matthew Sluka was their starting quarterback going into the season. Quit on the team essentially after 3 games so he can preserve his red shirt. And then I believe they had a tailback who was their starting running back, did the same thing. So, injuries is something that obviously we know now that you deal with. And I understand that UNLV is not the same level of competition as the Southeastern Conference, but, you lose your starting quarterback and your starting running back, and his offense didn't lose any sort of production. And he's still got a top 50 offense in the nation, number 6 on the ground in the entire country. And I just think he'll be able to recruit and do a great job there. There's a lot of things to like about Brennan Marion. He's an ex-player. I played receiver. I just think I think he would bring a lot of good juice to the program.
That is probably a popular choice amongst almost any fan base, not just Oklahoma's fan base, that needs an offensive mind to lead their program on that side of the ball. Definitely wouldn't be a bad hire. Going on to my number one, I'm going to go with Casey Woods, the current offensive coordinator for the SMU Mustangs. My reasoning for it is basically a regional play. This guy has been the offensive coordinator for SMU for the last 3 seasons. He is the tight ends coach and chief of staff, so someone that has a lot of responsibility on his plate right now. Probably going from SMU to Oklahoma, you take a little bit off his plate because we have a GM as part of the support staff at Oklahoma. So probably taking some of those roster management responsibilities from Casey Woods. Bringing him in, obviously that means Joe John is no longer on the staff since he'd be taking the tight end position over. But that SMU offense has been good since he got there. This year so far, they are ranked 26th in the country, averaging 443 and a half yards per game. They've scored 33 touchdowns offensively, averaging 6.39 yards per play. Preston Stone is a quarterback that heading into the season was getting some hype, not Heisman hype by any means, but definitely hype behind him where he could help lead this SMU team and this offense into their new era of being in the ACC, and they've done well so far. You're really still in contention for the ACC championship. Not a team that's really taken seriously because you still have Clemson and Miami. They're favorites in that conference to potentially win it all and get a playoff berth. But SMU's look good so far. It's someone that can build an offense. If I remember correctly, when he first came in to the SMU program, that first year he had that offense scoring nearly 38 points per game, which was 5th in the nation. He's another reason he's coached in the SEC before. He was at Mizzou for a couple years stint coaching the Titans there before going to SMU as their offensive coordinator. And again, regional. He knows how to recruit the Dallas area. He has ties there now. So use that. He's from Mississippi. He's a Mississippi native. So probably has ties to other areas of the SEC as well. So not just recruiting, a lot of recruiting benefits with him, but the fact that he knows how to create an offense and mold something that can be high powered from year one. He's shown that with, quote unquote, lesser talent. I think he would be a really good candidate that can overhaul this staff if absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So my next one is G.J. Kinney, the head coach at Texas State right now. And this one is a guy that, I'm going to have to shout out Alex Reyes here. Is a guy that, friend of the show, Alex Reyes. He's been on a couple of times. If you guys remember him, just go ahead and comment. But him and I were talking about it for a while. And G.J. Kinney's a guy that makes a lot of sense when you actually sit there and dig deep and look at it. He's a guy that is from Texas, played Texas high school football. He was offered by Oklahoma back in the day as a quarterback. Chose to commit and enroll at UT. Didn't never play there. Got buried and transferred over to TU. But at TU, he was a 3-year starter playing under Gus Malzahn, which Gus Malzahn was a pretty solid coach himself. And then he ended up working under Gus Malzahn for a while at UCF and other places like that. But he's a guy that played quarterback, threw for almost 10,000 yards in college, 81 yards. Had a short NFL stint with the Jets, kind of bounced around CFL and stuff like that. But I think him just being from the state of Texas, an area that Oklahoma is going to consistently recruit, being a 35-year-old guy that played the game. Now he's coaching at Texas State, so he's still recruiting the state of Texas. He's going to have ties all over the state probably. He's got a 24-10 record as a head coach, so the guy's a winner. There's a lot to like about GJ Kenny. That Texas State offense is number 14 in total offense, like 460 yards a game. They're doing a lot of positive things over there. Well over 6 yards of play. I just think him being from the state of Texas, playing high school football in Texas, being a quarterback, there's a lot of things that I think recruits would like about his resume. And if he can recruit the state of Texas well, we can recruit against anybody. And I think GJ Kenny makes a whole lot of sense here. I think that would be a home run hire.
That the state of Texas play is going to be huge, and it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if you would agree or disagree if that's going to be a big like category. Brent Venables and Castiglione look at like the ties to the regions that they're currently recruiting. How strong are they, and how much can they help with recruiting efforts later on? But my next guy is Willie Corn, second-year offensive coordinator for Liberty. Last year, he was able to come in and create a lot of good stuff for that offense. They were ranked number 1 in the country in rushing, averaging nearly 300 yards per game. To be exact, 293.3 yards per game in the 2023 season. They finished with a unbeaten record. They got to go to a New Year's Six Bowl, played Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. And this year so far, they haven't slowed down too much. They are currently ranked as the number 32 offense in the country, averaging 436 yards per game, 23 offensive touchdowns, and 6.3 yards per game. Their stats are a little wonky when you look at their overall yards because they did have a game canceled. From what I remember, I think it was due to one of the hurricanes earlier this year. They just weren't able to play. So they do have less games played, so their total yards are different. So looking at their averages, really best case. They are down, as you could tell, in the touchdown department. They haven't scored a ton of touchdowns, but that really hasn't slowed them down much. Their quarterback, I think, for what he was expected to do, is slightly underperforming given his performance last year. Caden Salter last year, in his first year with Willie Corn as offensive coordinator, had 2,876 yards, 32 touchdowns and 6 picks in the pass game. In the running game, solid 2, over 1,000 yards, rushing 12 touchdowns. So like this was a guy that killed it in his first year with him as his offensive coordinator. I mean, maybe not the best arm. He wasn't over 3,000 yards, but you add in 1,000 rushing, like that's really impressive season. I think if you get someone like that to help develop Jackson Arnold to be a better passer who can run, or even if, worst case scenario, if he were to leave for whatever reason and you have Mike Hawkins as your starter next year, he has a skill set to be a really good runner and be a good enough passer to have similar stats as the Caden Salter in his first year with Willie Corn. I think it would be an upgrade for him, given that you're going from Liberty, not a bad school, but you're taking a jump in competition and in media attention that you would get. A couple seasons at Oklahoma, if you can show that you're a good offensive mind, 2-3 seasons here, and you're going to be set up to be a head coach anywhere really that would have an opening.
I think that can be said about anybody that we bring in, and I think that's got to be like the number one thing at, as far as attracting these candidates, whoever it's going to be. I mean, they've got to have that in the back of their mind. Is if I put 3 great seasons together here, I'm going to be headhunted for. They're going to end up being a head coach if they're good here. Like it's a fact.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then I'm gonna let you present the last one here, Brandon, because we actually agree on the third option, and not that we have him at number three. One, because we both agree, so we didn't want to lead off the show with it. But I think overall he's probably the better choice if you look at like what he could bring to the staff, where he's at currently, and his age is just this dude's super young. But Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going Ben Arbuckle there in that third spot, which is the dude's 29 years old, man. He's I mean, if we hire Ben Arbuckle, I think, with him and paired with Zach Alley, what's Alley, 32, 33, something like that. I without looking this up at all, so someone's going to fact check me, but I would bet you that's the youngest coordinator duo in college football, probably. But I mean, I think they're. But I think we talked about it off record. I think that's something that you kind of have to go to now. With the world with the world of college football in the state that it's in, and with NIL and with the transfer portal being just you can leave anytime you want or pick anybody up anytime you want. Essentially, I think having these younger guys in there, kind of relating more to the players, kind of helps. And then the younger guys especially when it comes to offensive coordinators and stuff like that, they're just kind of a little more flashy, a little more fun. And I think that's kind of stuff that does get a lot of these players. But Ben Arbuckle is a guy who also played in his collegiate career, which doesn't hurt at all, only helps. Washington State is looking at a top 25 offense in the country right now. 23, but 448 per game, 6.5 yards per play, 39 offensive touchdowns. Again, with all these candidates, you have to understand that we know that they're playing not the competition that Oklahoma's playing in the SEC. They're all at smaller schools and they're lighting it up, but that's what you're supposed to do at lighter schools. That's how you get recognized. They're doing the right things. All of these offenses that all of the offense of these candidates that we're talking about are explosive. They're all top 50 in the country, and they're all going well over 400 per game, scoring the ball a ton. I just think the youngness, them being a former player in Arbuckle here, all of that stuff is stuff that I think you have to look for, and kind of let them run it how they see fit.
And I think the most important thing, and why, if anything, objectively Ben Arbuckle probably should be the number one candidate for this job. I mean, he should have been really in heavy consideration last year, but now is a good opportunity that you kind of get a reset, obviously. But he was the offensive coordinator at Western Kentucky just a couple years ago. He led that offense to averaging nearly 500 yards, which was sixth in the country, 352 in the air with 36 points per game. And his
That was number
quarterback
one passing in the land that year.
and his quarterback was Bailey Zappi, who ended up breaking the NCAA FBS single season record for passing yards and passing touchdowns with 5,967 yards and 62 touchdowns. So a guy that can scheme up an explosive offense to say the least. And then at his first season in Washington State, he coached none other than a Heisman favorite in Cam Ward. Really, probably the only reason he doesn't still have Cam Ward is because Washington State isn't in a power conference anymore. They were left out. They were one of the two teams left out of that Pac-12 movement to leave. They just didn't. They couldn't find a home to get out of there in football. So Cam Ward went on to Miami. Now he is lighting it up, leading that team to be maybe the ACC favorite to win that conference. So he can coach quarterbacks. He can create an explosive offense, and he develops quarterbacks at a high clip. That's something that Oklahoma is known to do traditionally. Explosive offenses develop quarterbacks. He fits the mold of a traditional Oklahoma offensive coordinator, and he has ties to Texas. And like Brandon said, he is as if he were to take this job, the moment that he were to get hired, he would be a fresh 30-year-old offensive coordinator that has connections to multiple stops around the country. He hasn't been someone else that other people may be considering and on their wish list is like a Mike Shanahan. He is obviously killing it at Indiana. I think it'd probably be tough to pull him away, not just because they're having a really good season in a power conference, but he has really only stuck with Cignetti throughout his career. So that him moving away to an Oklahoma or anywhere else would be the first time he hasn't been with Coach Cignetti, which would be tough to do, especially when you're winning. Why not stick around a couple seasons, show off, and try to get a head coaching job after coaching at Indiana? Yes, it's a smaller brand in college power football, but it's still Big Ten football, and if you can make an impact there and kind of make that program relevant in the world of college football, not just for a flash, but for a few seasons, he'll get a lot of attention. 2-3 years down the line, and maybe a move to Oklahoma wouldn't be as appealing, especially because he's a wide receivers coach. If he came, I think of the two coaches or of all the coaches on the offensive staff, two of them have excuses or reasons why they should stay at Oklahoma. Emmett Jones being one of them, the wide receivers coach. He is dealing with a lot of injuries, um, trying to catch up a lot of his young players. It's people are going to point to all these outstanding freshmen around the country like a Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith or Nick Marsh at Michigan State. Yes, there are outstanding freshman wide receivers, but there are probably over 100 that were rated as 4-star or better, and we're thinking of 5 to 6 that are outstanding freshmen off the top of our heads. Like we shouldn't expect that kind of production from true freshmen. We would love it. It's not impossible, but it's not common. So having to catch up that many freshmen to be impactful players on that side of the ball isn't easy, especially when you have all these other things working against you as a position coach in Emmett Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what happens, it's going to be a highly sought after position by season end. At the end of the day, it's Oklahoma. There's history there in itself. I think our brand still means something in college football. And it would be awesome for anybody to. I don't want to say bring Oklahoma back because it's not like we've been down long, but essentially bring Oklahoma back after one shitty season. And because one shitty season here feels like an eternity. It's just not what we're used to. We don't handle it well. We get very frustrated. So the guy, whoever it is, going to have an opportunity to turn an offense around. I think the pieces are still going to be there. If you can bring back the 5 receivers next season, if you can keep preferably both quarterbacks, but definitely at least one. If you get those 5 receivers back, you're going to have a competent quarterback, whoever it is. I think I prefer Arnold still, but we'll see what happens there. And if you can fix an offensive line, there's no reason that this offense can't be very explosive next season. And that's kind of the part that kind of keeps you optimistic. But I think, we learned from last season that we have to take this search more seriously than we did. I understand promoting from within and giving your own guys a shot first. I don't even hate it. I don't mind it, especially with a guy like Seth Luttrell, who played at Oklahoma, won a national title at Oklahoma. I'm sure the program meant a lot to him. It just clearly didn't work out. And I get that there was a lot of things that from the jump were just against Seth Luttrell with how injured this team was all season. But, you can't be a bottom 10 offense in the country at Oklahoma, regardless of the hand you're dealt. That's just that doesn't work here. It's not going to fly. And clearly it didn't. And, I think just there's a combination of a lot of things that went against us this season that just ultimately hurt whoever's on offense. But, it's creating an opportunity for somebody, and whoever they do, I think they're going to have a great opportunity. And I'm excited to see how the search goes at the end of the season. I understand we still have 4 games to go, but I say it on almost every preview video. It's every preview we do, every recap we do is just one game closer to the off season. Just because, at this point it's not the season we expected. It's kind of a wash season. So let's move forward, move on kind of. And I still am a firm believer that all of this can be resolved in one off season. Get the right guy, retain the pieces you have, and I think you're back.
That is what we have to look for. It's like having a crappy NFL team. You just wishing for loss after loss so you can get the number one overall pick.
I do
Obviously,
have that
that's not
too. I am a Miami Dolphins fan, for you guys who know that. So that is just I yeah. I mean, we have that group text with another buddy of ours, and I texted on Sunday after the Dolphins lost another heartbreaker. My fantasy team lost to 2. I'm on a 4-game losing streak in fantasy. Started the fantasy season off 4-0. Now I'm 4-4. Just it really feels like I'm just never going to see another win. NFL, college, fantasy football. I'm never going to win again. I need this season to end.
the off season can't come soon enough for some of us, but we have to struggle through the last bit of it. Uh, Hopefully, we're bowl eligible, like we said at the end of the last video. We'll see, but I mean, at the end of the day, more than likely, Finley will not be the offensive coordinator, and there's going to be a lot of changes come the off season. So that'll be fun to watch and cover, see what Oklahoma does to try to fix this offense come next season. Uh, that'll be it to wrap everything up. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Going down into the comment section, let us know who your wish list is of your top 3, your number 1 guy that you'd like to see Oklahoma go after and get the job. And share the video. Follow us on all social media. Linked is down below, and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.